The ink shouldn't have trembled as Sophia pressed the pen against the check presenter, but her hand betrayed her anyway. 3 letters in bold capitals, "Bomb," scrawled across the bottom of the receipt where the evening specials were printed. Her lungs felt too small for her body as she approached table 12, the corner booth where Vincent Moretti sat like a king surveying his kingdom. The weight of what she was about to do pressed against her chest like a physical thing. 4 years of waiting tables at Luminara, Las Vegas's most exclusive Italian restaurant, had taught Sofia Reyes to be invisible. The best servers were ghosts, anticipating needs, refilling glasses, clearing plates without ever truly registering in the consciousness of the wealthy and powerful who dined there. But tonight, invisibility would get people killed. Sophia had noticed the man in the navy suit immediately when he'd entered 20 minutes ago. Not because he was unusual, Luminara attracted plenty of well-dressed clientele, but because of what he wasn't doing. He'd ordered a $30 appetizer and hadn't touched it. His water glass remained full. His eyes never stopped moving, but they never quite landed on anything either. The kind of focused distraction that screamed waiting for something. And then she'd seen him check his watch 3 times in 2 minutes. Sophia's engineering courses at UNLV had taught her to recognize patterns, to see systems within chaos. People were systems too, predictable in their routines and glaring in their deviations. This man was deviating. When he'd excused himself to the restroom but turned toward the kitchen hallway instead, Sophia had followed at a careful distance, her tray of empty glasses providing perfect cover. Through the narrow gap between stacked storage boxes, she'd watched him kneel beside the booth where Vincent Moretti would sit in exactly 8 minutes. Because Vincent Moretti always arrived at 8:45 on Friday nights, always took the same booth, always ordered the same Barolo. The device the man attached beneath the cushioned bench seat was small, black, and utterly professional. No wires visible, no blinking lights, just a smooth rectangle that adhered with magnetic precision to the metal frame beneath the leather upholstery. Sophia had gripped her tray so hard the glasses rattled. Now, as she moved through the amber lighting of Luminara's dining room, past tables where tourists and locals celebrated anniversaries and closed business deals, Sophia felt like she was walking through water. Every step took enormous effort. The restaurant's signature scent, garlic, wine, expensive cologne, and old money, seemed amplified to the point of suffocation. Vincent Moretti looked up as she approached, his gray eyes the color of gunmetal finding hers with the kind of attention that made her skin prickle. He was younger than she'd expected when she'd first started serving his table 2 years ago, perhaps 40, with dark hair showing distinguished silver at the temples and a face that belonged on Roman coins. Handsome in a way that felt dangerous, like admiring a blade's craftsmanship right before it cut you. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Your check, Mr. Moretti, Sophia said, her voice surprisingly steady as she placed the leather folder on the white tablecloth. Their fingers brushed as he reached for it, the first time she'd ever touched him in 2 years of service. And she held his gaze for a fraction longer than appropriate. His eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly, reading the breach of protocol like a language he'd learned before he could walk. Vincent opened the folder with deliberate slowness, his movements economical in the way of men who never wasted energy. Sophia watched his face as he registered the word written across his receipt in her panicked capitals. Nothing changed in his expression, not a flicker of surprise, not a hint of alarm, but his stillness became absolute, the kind of frozen that preceded explosive movement. He looked up at her again, and Sophia's breath caught. Those gray eyes held no warmth, no gratitude, only cold calculation as he assessed whether she was threat or warning, enemy or unexpected ally. Sophia glanced down at the booth seat, then back to him, her lips forming the words without sound. Under your chair. For 3 heartbeats that felt like hours, Vincent Moretti studied her face with the intensity of someone reading a map that might lead to salvation or ambush. Sophia felt exposed under that gaze, every secret laid bare, every fear visible in high definition. Then he closed the check presenter with a soft snap that sounded like a door closing on her old life. "Gentlemen," Vincent said to the 2 men seated at the adjacent table, his voice carrying just enough to be heard over the jazz quartet playing near the bar. "We're leaving." The men, his security, Sophia realized with sudden clarity, positioned to watch the entrance and the main dining room, stood immediately, their movements fluid despite their size. One was blonde and broad-shouldered, the other dark-haired with the lean build of a runner, but both had the same watchful quality, the same controlled readiness. Vincent placed $500 bills beneath his wineglass, his eyes never leaving Sophia's face. "You're coming with us," he said quietly. Not a question, not quite a command, something in between that suggested her cooperation was both expected and non-negotiable. "I can't just leave," Sophia protested, awareness of the bomb's timer. She had no idea how long they had, warring with the practical reality that she couldn't abandon her shift without explanation. "My manager." "Your manager will be far more understanding than you think," Vincent interrupted, standing with the grace of someone who'd never been refused anything in his life. "Especially when I purchased this establishment in the morning and explained that your quick thinking prevented a massacre." The casual mention of buying Luminara like someone might purchase a tie made Sophia's head spin. But there was no time to process the implications because Vincent's hand was on the small of her back, firm and proprietary, guiding her toward the service entrance with his security team, creating a moving barrier around them. "The man who placed it," Sophia whispered urgently as they moved through the kitchen, staff members stepping aside without question when they saw Vincent Moretti. "Navy suit, dark hair, sitting near the bar." "Already being handled," the blonde security man said quietly, one hand pressed to his ear where a nearly invisible earpiece fed him information. "Marco has him contained in the wine cellar." They emerged into the alley behind Luminara, where the desert night hit Sophia's face like a slap. After the restaurant's carefully controlled climate, the heat of the day still radiated from the pavement, mixing with the smell of garbage and exhaust from the strip visible in the distance, a neon river of light cutting through the darkness. A black Mercedes SUV waited with its engine running, the driver's door opening to reveal another security member who nodded at Vincent with military precision. "Wait," Sophia said, pulling against Vincent's guiding hand as reality crashed over her. "My daughter. I have to call my daughter. She's with the babysitter, and if something happens—" Vincent's expression shifted for the first time, something that might have been surprise flickering across his features, before being locked away behind his usual controlled mask. "How old?" he asked. "7," Sophia answered, her voice cracking slightly. "Her name is Emma. She's waiting for me to pick her up at 10, and if I don't—" "Give me the address," Vincent said, already pulling out his phone. "My people will collect her and bring her to a secure location. She'll be protected." The casual way he rearranged her entire life with a few phone calls should have terrified Sophia more than it did. Instead, she felt a strange relief as she rattled off her babysitter's address, watching Vincent relay information with quiet authority to whoever was on the other end of the line. "They're sending a female operative," Vincent assured her after ending the call. "Someone trained to handle children. Emma will be safe, and she'll be with you within the hour." Sophia wanted to argue, to insist that she could handle her own daughter's safety, but the truth was that she had no idea what was happening or how deep the danger went. The bomb proved someone wanted Vincent Moretti dead. Her warning had placed her, and by extension, Emma, directly in the path of whoever had planned tonight's attack. The SUV's interior smelled like leather and gun oil, an odd combination that Sophia's heightened senses catalogued. Automatically, Vincent sat beside her in the back seat, while the blonde security member took the front passenger seat and the driver pulled smoothly into traffic. "Your name," Vincent said, and Sophia realized with a start that despite serving him for 2 years, they'd never actually been introduced. She'd been Sophia only to her manager, who assigned tables. To Vincent Moretti, she'd been invisible, exactly as she'd intended. "Sophia Reyes," she answered, her hands twisting together in her lap as she fought the urge to check her phone again. Emma's babysitter, Mrs. Chen, was reliable and calm, but the thought of strangers collecting her daughter made Sophia's stomach clench. "Engineering student," Vincent observed, surprising her. "UNLV, mechanical focus. Graduating next semester if your current GPA holds." Sophia's head snapped toward him, shock momentarily overriding her fear. "How do you—" "I make it my business to know the people who serve my food," Vincent replied with a slight shrug, as if extensive background checks on waitstaff were perfectly normal. "You've worked at Luminara for 4 years, always Friday and Saturday nights, occasionally picking up Wednesday shifts when they're short-staffed. Your daughter attends Desert Springs Elementary. You live in a one-bedroom apartment in Henderson and haven't been late with rent in 3 years, despite tuition costs." The casual recitation of her life's details should have been invasive, creepy even, but instead Sophia felt oddly seen. How many people passed through her life without noticing her at all? Yet this dangerous man had catalogued every detail like she mattered. "Why?" Sophia asked. "Why know all that about a waitress?" Vincent's smile was slight, barely there and gone in an instant. "Because people who work hard, who show up consistently, who notice details, these are people worth knowing. And tonight, your attention to patterns saved my life, and probably a dozen others." The SUV turned off the strip, heading into quieter neighborhoods where the neon gave way to streetlights and residential developments. Sophia recognized the area, upscale but not ostentatious, where doctors and lawyers lived alongside casino executives and successful business owners. "The man with the bomb?" Sophia said, needing to understand the shape of what she'd stumbled into. "Who sent him?" Vincent exchanged a glance with his blonde security member before answering. "That's what we'll be finding out very shortly. But I suspect you've inadvertently involved yourself in a territory dispute that's been escalating for months." "The Calabrese family," the blonde man added, his voice carrying a faint Boston accent. "They've been pushing into Mr. Moretti's operations throughout Vegas, trying to take over everything from casino holdings to construction contracts. This would have been their most aggressive move yet." Sophia processed this information, her engineering mind already constructing models of power dynamics and territorial disputes. "And now I'm a witness," she realized, the full weight of her situation settling onto her shoulders. "I can identify the man who planted the bomb." "You're more than a witness," Vincent corrected, his tone matter-of-fact rather than threatening. "You're someone who chose to help when you could have looked away. That choice has consequences, both dangerous and potentially beneficial." The SUV pulled through a gate that opened automatically, revealing a property that made Sophia's breath catch. The house wasn't as massive as she'd expected for a mafia boss, no sprawling mansion with columns and fountains, but it was beautiful in an understated way. Modern desert architecture with clean lines, floor-to-ceiling windows, and strategic lighting that made the xeriscaped yard glow like something from an architecture magazine. "Welcome to the safest place in Nevada," Vincent said, as they pulled into the circular drive. "No one gets past the perimeter without my knowledge, and my security team could repel a small army if needed." Sophia climbed out of the SUV on shaking legs, her waitress uniform, black pants and white button-down shirt, suddenly feeling ridiculous in this environment. The desert night wrapped around her, cooler now, the dry air carrying the scent of sage and night-blooming jasmine. Inside, the house opened into a living room with soaring ceilings and art that Sophia suspected was original rather than prints. Abstract pieces that played with light and shadow, creating an atmosphere of controlled sophistication that matched Vincent's personal aesthetic. "Emma will arrive within 30 minutes, Vincent assured her, glancing at his phone. "Alexandra is with her now. She's one of my most trusted people, former Secret Service, excellent with children. Mrs. Chen has been informed that you had a family emergency and was compensated for her time and discretion." The casual orchestration of her life continued to disorient Sophia. Within an hour, this man had extracted her from Luminara, secured her daughter, and created a plausible cover story, all while dealing with an assassination attempt. The level of control and resources required for such efficiency was staggering. "You need to sit down," Vincent observed, guiding Sophia toward a leather sofa that probably cost more than her annual salary. "You're in shock, which is entirely reasonable given what you just prevented." Sophia sank onto the sofa, her professional composure finally cracking as the adrenaline began to ebb. "I don't understand why I did it," she admitted, her voice small. "I could have just walked away, pretended I didn't see anything, but I kept thinking about all the people in that restaurant, the couple celebrating their anniversary at table 7, the family with 3 kids at table 14. If that bomb had gone off, it would have killed me and anyone within a 15-foot radius." Vincent finished calmly, sitting in the chair across from her with perfect posture. "The Calabrese family doesn't care about collateral damage. They wanted to make a statement, and your presence in the blast zone would have been unfortunate but acceptable to them." The cold calculation in his words made Sophia shiver. This was his world, a place where human life could be measured and weighed against strategic objectives, where violence was a tool rather than an aberration. "I need you to tell me exactly what you saw," Vincent continued, his tone shifting into something more businesslike. "Every detail about the man who planted the device, his movements, anything you noticed before or after." Sophia closed her eyes, visualizing the scene with the precision her engineering training had honed. "He entered at 8:27, she began, surprised by how clearly she remembered. "Navy suit, probably custom. The fit was too perfect for off the rack. Dark hair, graying at the temples, maybe 50 years old. 6 feet tall, athletic build but starting to thicken around the middle. Wedding ring, but it looked loose, like he'd lost weight recently." Vincent's eyebrow raised slightly, impressed despite himself. "Go on." "He ordered the calamari but never touched it. Ordered water, no ice. Unusual for Nevada in summer. Most tourists want ice. He checked his phone 4 times in the first 10 minutes, but never made a call or typed anything, like he was checking the time rather than messages. Then the watch checking started. 3 times in 2 minutes, which suggested he was timing something. The blonde security member had joined them, taking notes on a tablet with focused attention. "Did he make eye contact with anyone? Signal to someone else in the restaurant?" Sophia shook her head. "No," which is what made him stand out. Most people dining alone at Luminara look around, people watch, get distracted by their phones. He was actively trying to appear casual while being extremely focused, like an actor playing man dining alone without understanding the nuances. "Did you see the device clearly?" Vincent asked. "Black, rectangular, maybe 6 inches by 4 inches. He attached it to the metal frame under the booth seat. Magnetic, I think, because he didn't fumble with any fasteners. Took him less than 30 seconds." Sophia opened her eyes, meeting Vincent's gaze. Professional installation. This wasn't his first time planting explosives. The room fell silent as the implications settled over them. Sophia had witnessed a professional hit, had interfered with what was clearly a well-planned assassination, and had identified details that could potentially lead back to whoever had ordered Vincent Moretti's death. "You have remarkable observation skills," Vincent said quietly, something like respect coloring his tone. Most people would have noticed the device but missed everything else. The contextual details that create a complete picture. "I'm an engineer," Sophia replied with a slight shrug. "We're trained to see systems, patterns, deviations from expected behavior. It's not special, just how my brain works." Vincent's smile was genuine this time, transforming his face from coldly handsome to something approaching warmth. "In my world, Sophia, that kind of mind is very special indeed, and very valuable." Before Sophia could respond, the front door opened with a quiet beep of the security system disengaging. A woman in her mid-30s entered, holding Emma's hand gently. Sophia's daughter looked small and confused, but not frightened. Her backpack still slung over one shoulder and her favorite stuffed rabbit, a battered gray thing named Mr. Hopscotch, clutched under her arm. "Mama!" Emma's voice cracked with relief as she spotted Sophia, breaking free from the woman's grip to run across the room. Sophia caught her daughter in a fierce embrace, breathing in the familiar scent of strawberry shampoo and childhood. Normal, safe, ordinary things that felt impossibly precious in this moment. "I'm here, baby. Everything's okay." "Alexandra said there was an emergency," Emma said against Sophia's shoulder, her 7-year-old voice wavering between brave and terrified. "Is Abuela okay? Did something happen to Grandma?" "Everyone's fine," Sophia assured her, smoothing Emma's dark curls with shaking hands. "There was just a situation at work. Nothing for you to worry about." Emma pulled back, her brown eyes, so like her father's, though Sophia tried not to think about Carlos anymore, studying her mother's face with the uncanny perception children sometimes possessed. "You look scared," she observed. "And we're in a stranger's house." "I'm Vincent," Vincent said, moving to crouch at Emma's level with surprising grace for a man his size. "Your mother helped me tonight, and I wanted to make sure you were both safe while we figured some things out. Are you hungry? My housekeeper makes excellent hot chocolate." Emma regarded him with the suspicious assessment of a child who'd been taught not to trust strangers, but the mention of hot chocolate created visible conflict across her features. "With marshmallows?" she asked cautiously. "As many as you want," Vincent confirmed, his voice gentler than Sophia had ever heard it. As if summoned by magic, an older woman appeared from what Sophia assumed was the kitchen, carrying a tray with steaming mugs and a plate of cookies. She had kind eyes and the comfortable, unflappable demeanor of someone who'd seen everything and been shocked by nothing. "This is Rosa," Vincent introduced. "She's worked with my family for 30 years, and she has strict instructions to spoil any children who visit. Rosa, this is Emma and her mother, Sophia. They'll be staying with us for a while." The casual announcement of their extended residency made Sophia's head snap up, protest forming on her lips, but Vincent's slight headshake stopped her. "Not in front of Emma," his expression said clearly. "We'll discuss this later." Rosa settled Emma at the kitchen counter, visible through the open floor plan, engaging her in conversation about school and favorite subjects, while Vincent guided Sophia to a home office off the main living area. The space was masculine and efficient. Dark wood desk, leather chairs, walls lined with books that looked actually read rather than decorative. "I can't just stay here," Sophia said the moment the door closed, keeping her voice low. "I have work, school, Emma's routine." "Your life, as it existed before tonight, is over," Vincent interrupted bluntly. "I don't say that to frighten you, Sophia, but because it's the truth you need to understand immediately. The Calabrese family will know within hours that their attempt failed, and they'll know you were the reason why. You've made yourself a target." The words landed like physical blows, each one driving home the magnitude of what her split-second decision had cost. So what am I supposed to do? Sophia asked, hating how her voice wavered. Hide here forever? Uproot my daughter's entire life because I did the right thing? You're supposed to let me protect you while we eliminate the threat, Vincent replied, his tone absolute. And then we'll discuss your future, both what you want it to be and what it can realistically become given your new circumstances. Sophia wanted to argue, to insist on her independence, to demand he fix this somehow without requiring her complete submission to his authority. But the truth was undeniable. She had no resources, no training, no ability to protect herself or Emma from professional killers who considered collateral damage an acceptable cost of business. How long? She asked instead, the only question that mattered. Vincent's expression softened slightly, recognizing her capitulation for what it was. Not weakness, but pragmatic survival instinct. That depends on how quickly we can neutralize the Calabrese operation and secure assurances that you're no longer a threat worth pursuing. Days, possibly weeks. I'll make it as brief as possible. Through the office's glass walls, Sophia could see Emma laughing at something Rosa said, chocolate mustache decorating her upper lip as she bit into a cookie. Her daughter's resilience, her ability to find joy even in strange circumstances, both comforted and devastated Sophia. Emma deserved better than this chaos, this danger that had invaded their carefully constructed life. What about school? Sophia asked, her mind already racing through logistics. Emma can't just disappear for weeks, and I have finals in 3 weeks. Finals can be arranged remotely, and Emma's school will be informed that she's dealing with a family illness requiring her temporary absence, Vincent said, clearly having already considered these obstacles. I have significant influence with UNLV's administration, and Desert Springs Elementary is amenable to requests from donors who support their programs generously. The casual corruption of it all, the way money and power could simply rearrange reality to suit convenience, should have appalled Sophia. Instead, she felt a guilty relief that someone else was handling the impossible logistics of her disrupted life. I don't want Emma to know the truth, Sophia said firmly, the one non-negotiable demand she could make. She's 7. She doesn't need to know about bombs and Mafia families and whatever else is happening here. Vincent nodded immediately. Agreed completely. As far as Emma knows, you're helping me with an important project, and staying here is temporary while your apartment undergoes emergency repairs. Children are perceptive, but they can accept almost anything if the adults in their lives remain calm and consistent. A knock on the office door interrupted them. The dark-haired security member from earlier entered, his expression grave. We have initial information from the bomber, he reported, his voice professionally neutral despite whatever methods had been used to extract that information. He's confirmed Calabrese family contract. Payment structure suggests this was sanctioned at the highest levels. Leonardo Calabrese personally approved the hit. Vincent's expression hardened, the brief softness he'd shown with Emma vanishing behind cold calculation. And the device? Remote detonation, cell phone trigger. Bomb squad has it disabled and removed from Luminara. No other devices were found in the building, and we've swept your other properties as a precaution. All clear. Sophia felt sick imagining what would have happened if she hadn't noticed the bomber's strange behavior, if she'd been too focused on her own tables to pay attention to the pattern deviation that had triggered her engineering instincts. Dozens dead. Luminara destroyed. Emma waiting at the babysitters for a mother who would never come to collect her. Thank you, Marcus, Vincent said to the security member. Arrange a meeting with our contacts in the Calabrese organization. I want to know if this was Leonardo acting alone, or if he has family support for such a dramatic escalation. Marcus nodded and withdrew, leaving Vincent and Sophia alone again in the office that felt simultaneously too large and too small for the weight of everything unspoken between them. You should rest, Vincent said, his tone gentling slightly. It's been an extraordinary night, and Emma will need you steady tomorrow when she wakes up in unfamiliar surroundings. Rosa will show you to the guest suite. It has a second bedroom that should work well for Emma. Sophia wanted to protest that she was fine, that she didn't need rest, but exhaustion crashed over her like a wave. The adrenaline that had sustained her through the evening's chaos was finally depleting, leaving her shaky and hollow. "Mr. Moretti," she began, then stopped, unsure what she even wanted to say. "Vincent," he corrected gently. "Given that you saved my life and are now living under my roof, I think we can dispense with formalities." "Vincent," Sophia amended, the name feeling strange on her tongue, too intimate for the dangerous stranger who'd reorganized her entire existence in a matter of hours. "Thank you for protecting Emma, for understanding that she comes first." Vincent's expression shifted into something Sophia couldn't quite read. Respect mixed with something darker, more possessive. "I protect what's mine, Sophia. And as of tonight, you and Emma are under my protection, which makes you mine to keep safe. Don't thank me for doing what honor demands." The words should have sounded arrogant, but instead they carried the weight of absolute commitment. Vincent Moretti didn't make casual promises, didn't offer protection lightly. Sophia had saved his life, and he was repaying that debt in the currency his world understood: loyalty, security, the shield of his considerable power. Rosa appeared to guide them to the guest suite, Emma already drooping with exhaustion despite the sugar rush from hot chocolate. The rooms were beautiful, decorated in soothing neutrals with touches of turquoise that reminded Sophia of desert skies. Emma's bedroom had a twin bed with soft linens and a bookshelf already stocked with children's books, as if Vincent kept the space prepared for young visitors. "Does he have kids?" Sophia asked Rosa as she tucked Emma into bed, smoothing the covers around her daughter's small form. "No," Rosa replied quietly, something like old sorrow crossing her features. "But Mr. Vincent values family above all else. This house is meant to welcome people he cares about, even if those opportunities are rare in his line of work." After Emma fell asleep, Mr. Hopscotch tucked securely under her arm, Sophia stood at the floor-to-ceiling window in her own bedroom, looking out at Las Vegas glowing in the distance. The Strip was a river of light cutting through the desert darkness, representing millions of people whose Friday night had proceeded exactly as planned: dinner, shows, gambling, ordinary pleasures, and predictable routines. Her own Friday night had ended with her daughter sleeping in a Mafia boss's guest room, while men with guns patrolled the perimeter and plans were made to eliminate threats Sophia couldn't begin to understand. She touched the glass, feeling its cool surface against her palm, and wondered if her old life, the careful, controlled existence she'd built from the ruins of her teenage pregnancy and Carlos's abandonment, was truly gone forever, or if there was still a path back to normalcy once the immediate danger passed. A soft knock on her door made Sophia turn. Vincent stood in the hallway, his suit jacket removed and sleeves rolled up, looking more human and somehow more dangerous without the armor of his formal attire. "I wanted to check that you had everything you need," he said, his eyes searching her face with that unnerving intensity that made her feel transparent. "Rosa can provide anything that's missing: clothes, toiletries, whatever Emma might need for tomorrow." "We're fine," Sophia assured him, hyper-aware of how close he stood, how the hallway's dim lighting cast shadows across his features. "Emma's already asleep, and I'm just processing. Processing that your life has irrevocably changed in a single evening," Vincent observed. Not a question, but an acknowledgement of shared understanding. "I know something about that particular experience." Sophia tilted her head, curious despite herself. "Is that what happened to you? One night that changed everything?" Vincent's smile was slight, tinged with old darkness. "I was 15 when my father was killed in front of me. One night that ended my childhood and began my education in the family business. So yes, I understand what it feels like when the world you know burns down and you're forced to build something new from the ashes. The honesty in his admission surprised Sophia, creating an unexpected thread of connection between them. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, meaning it despite everything. "That's too young to lose a parent, especially that way. And you're too young to be raising a child alone while putting yourself through engineering school," Vincent countered. "Yet here we are, both survivors of circumstances we didn't choose, making the best of the cards we've been dealt." They stood in the hallway for a moment longer, the silence between them heavy with unspoken understanding. Finally, Vincent stepped back, restoring the professional distance his proximity had temporarily bridged. "Get some rest, Sophia," he said. "Tomorrow we'll discuss the practical arrangements of your stay here, what Emma needs to feel comfortable, how to manage your coursework remotely, what security protocols you'll need to follow. Tonight, just sleep, knowing you're safe." After he left, Sophia returned to the window, watching the distant lights of Las Vegas and thinking about cards dealt and choices made, and the strange trajectory that had brought her from serving Vincent Moretti's table to sleeping under his roof with her daughter down the hall. She'd written one word on a check to save his life. Now she had to figure out how to survive the consequences of that choice, and whether the man she'd saved was her protector or her captor, or somehow dangerously both. Morning arrived with the kind of brutal sunshine only Nevada could deliver, light flooding through Sophia's bedroom windows despite the expensive blinds designed to filter it. She woke disoriented, her body registering the unfamiliar 1,000-thread count sheets before her mind caught up with where she was and why. Vincent Moretti's guest suite, under protection, target of a crime family. The reality settled over her like a weight as she heard Emma's voice drifting from somewhere in the house, bright and curious, asking questions about the pool she'd apparently discovered through her own bedroom window. Sophia pulled on the clothes Rosa had left folded on the dresser, designer jeans that fit perfectly despite no measurements being taken, a soft cashmere sweater in deep blue, and followed her daughter's voice. She found Emma in the kitchen with Rosa, already dressed in clothes Sophia didn't recognize, perched on a stool, while Rosa prepared French toast with the efficiency of someone who'd perfected the recipe decades ago. Vincent sat at the kitchen island with a tablet and coffee, reading what appeared to be financial reports, with the same focused intensity he probably applied to everything. He looked different in the morning light, Sophia thought. Still dangerous, still precisely controlled, but somehow more human in dark jeans and a charcoal Henley that revealed forearms corded with muscle. His hair was slightly damp from a shower, and Sophia caught the scent of cedar and bergamot as she approached. Expensive and understated, like everything else about him. "Mama!" Emma bounced on her stool with 7-year-old enthusiasm. "Rosa says there's a pool and Mr. Vincent has a home theater, and the refrigerator has 3 kinds of ice cream, and can we stay here forever?" "We're just visiting, baby," Sophia said gently, smoothing Emma's curls as she kissed the top of her head. "Remember? Temporary, while our apartment gets fixed." Emma's face fell slightly, but children were remarkably adaptable. "Can I at least swim today? Rosa said I could if you said yes." Sophia glanced at Vincent, who'd looked up from his tablet to watch their interaction with that unreadable expression she was beginning to recognize as his default. "I had Rosa purchase appropriate swimwear in Emma's size," he said calmly. "The pool is completely private and under surveillance. She'd be safe." The casual mention of surveillance cameras monitoring a swimming pool should have disturbed Sophia more than it did. Instead, she felt only weary acceptance that her life now included such precautions. "After breakfast," she agreed, earning a delighted squeal from Emma. Rosa placed a plate of French toast in front of Sophia, golden and perfectly dusted with powdered sugar, alongside fresh berries and real maple syrup. The kind of breakfast Sophia only made for Emma on special occasions, when she had time and energy to spare from her brutal schedule of work and school. "We need to discuss logistics," Vincent said once Emma had been excused to change into her new swimsuit under Rosa's supervision. His tone shifted from the gentle patience he'd shown with her daughter to something more businesslike. "Your coursework, Emma's schooling, and the security protocols you'll need to follow while you're here." Sophia sipped the coffee Rosa had poured, rich and complex, nothing like the instant coffee she survived on at home, and forced herself to focus. "UNLV has agreed to let me complete my remaining coursework remotely. Your professors have been informed that you're dealing with a family medical emergency requiring you to be out of state," Vincent confirmed. "All assignments can be submitted digitally, and your finals will be proctored via video conference. Your GPA won't suffer, and your graduation timeline remains intact." The efficiency with which he'd rearranged her academic life was both impressive and unsettling. And Emma? Desert Springs Elementary has been told the same story. Her teacher will send daily lesson plans, and Rosa has experienced homeschooling. She raised 3 children while working for my family. Emma won't fall behind. Sophia set down her coffee cup, needing to ask the question that had kept her awake despite her exhaustion. "How long, Vincent? Realistically, how long until we can go home?" Vincent's expression hardened slightly, the warmth he'd shown Emma vanishing behind his professional mask. "The Calabrese situation is more complex than I initially thought. Leonardo didn't act alone. He has support from at least 2 of his capos, and possibly connections to the Volkov Bratva out of Los Angeles. This isn't just a local territory dispute anymore." The unfamiliar terms, capos, bratva, washed over Sophia as she struggled to process the escalating danger. Meaning? "Meaning this ends when Leonardo Calabrese is no longer in a position to threaten you," Vincent said bluntly, "either through negotiation that guarantees your safety or through more permanent solutions. I'm working toward the former, but I'm prepared to implement the latter if necessary." The casual mention of murder, dressed in euphemism but unmistakable, made Sophia's stomach clench. "You're talking about killing him." "I'm talking about protecting you and Emma by whatever means prove necessary," Vincent corrected, his gray eyes holding hers without apology. "In my world, Sophia, there are no half measures. Threats are either neutralized completely, or they escalate until someone dies. I prefer the former." Sophia wanted to argue, to insist there had to be another way, but she'd watched enough news and read enough criminal psychology textbooks to understand the reality Vincent described. Men like Leonardo Calabrese didn't respond to reasonable negotiations or legal consequences. They understood only power and the willingness to use it. "What do you need from me?" she asked instead, recognizing that moral debates were luxuries she couldn't afford. Vincent's expression shifted, something like approval flickering across his features. "I need you to follow security protocols absolutely. Marcus will brief you on the details, but the basics are simple. You don't leave the property without my explicit permission and armed escort. You don't contact anyone from your old life without using secured communication channels I provide. And you report anything unusual, no matter how insignificant it seems." "I'm a prisoner," Sophia stated, not accusatorily but as simple fact. "You're protected," Vincent corrected. "There's a difference, though I understand it may not feel that way initially. You have access to the entire property, the pool, the gym, my library, the home theater Emma was so excited about. Rosa can procure anything you need. You're not confined to your room or restricted beyond what safety demands." Emma's laughter drifted in from the pool area, where Rosa was apparently supervising her first swim in water that probably cost more to maintain than Sophia's monthly rent. The sound of her daughter's joy in this surreal situation created cognitive dissonance Sophia couldn't quite reconcile. "I need to work," Sophia said suddenly, the thought crystallizing. Not just schoolwork. I need something productive to do, or I'll lose my mind sitting here waiting for news about assassination attempts and territorial disputes. Vincent studied her for a long moment, his analytical mind clearly processing this request from multiple angles. What kind of work? I'm an engineer, Sophia reminded him, or I will be in 6 months. I can analyze systems, identify inefficiencies, solve problems. You mentioned last night that you have casino holdings and construction contracts. I could review operational data, look for optimization opportunities, make myself useful instead of just being a liability you're protecting. The suggestion hung between them, Sophia's need for purpose meeting Vincent's pragmatic assessment of her value. She watched him consider the offer, weighing risks against benefits, with the same careful calculation he probably applied to every business decision. I'm planning to expand into renewable energy infrastructure, Vincent said finally. Solar installations, battery storage systems, the technology side of making Vegas more sustainable. It's legitimate business with significant growth potential, but I lack in-house expertise on the engineering fundamentals. Sophia's interest sparked despite the circumstances. Renewable energy had been her focus area, the field where her mechanical engineering degree would hopefully lead to stable employment, far from the chaos of her current life. You want me to consult on your renewable energy expansion? I want to give you something meaningful to do while you're here, Vincent clarified. If that happens to benefit my business interests as well, so much the better. Consider it part of the protection arrangement. I keep you and Emma safe. You help me understand the technical feasibility of projects my finance people are pushing. It wasn't charity, Sophia recognized. Vincent was too pragmatic for that. This was transaction, exchange of value, the foundation of every relationship in his world. She'd saved his life. He was protecting hers. Now she'd provide expertise. He'd provide purpose and potentially a career connection that could open doors her waitressing resume never would. I'll need access to your project proposals and technical specifications, Sophia said, her engineering mind already engaging with the problem. Financial projections, site assessments, any contractor bids you've received, and I'll need guarantees that my analysis will be honest. If your projects are bad investments, I'm going to tell you that regardless of whose money is involved. Vincent's smile was genuine, the kind that transformed his face from coldly handsome to devastatingly attractive. I'd expect nothing less. Dishonest analysis is worthless analysis. I'll have my people prepare the relevant documentation and set you up with a workspace. Marcus appeared in the kitchen doorway, his timing suggesting he'd been waiting for their conversation to conclude. The Calabrese meeting is set for tonight, he reported. Leonardo agreed to neutral ground at the Venetian private room, 2 security personnel each. He's desperate, Vincent observed, his tone flat. Agreeing to my terms without negotiation suggests the bombing failure has created problems within his own organization. Good. Sophia felt cold despite the morning warmth flooding the kitchen. Tonight, Vincent would sit across from the man who'd tried to kill him, who now wanted her dead as well. The civilized veneer of a casino meeting room would barely disguise the violence simmering beneath. I want to come, Sophia said, the words escaping before she'd fully considered them. Both men turned to stare at her, Vincent's expression unreadable while Marcus looked openly shocked. Absolutely not, Vincent said, his tone allowing no argument. You're the reason we're having this meeting, Sophia. Your presence would be inflammatory and dangerous. I'm the reason you're alive, Sophia corrected, holding his gaze despite the intensity there. And I'm the one who can identify the bomber on site. What if Leonardo brings him as security? What if there are details about that night that I remember but haven't thought to mention? I could be useful. You could be a target, Vincent countered. Leonardo wants you dead, and bringing you into his proximity is suicide regardless of neutral ground agreements. Sophia stood, needing the physical assertion of equality even though Vincent still towered over her even seated. I'm already a target. Hiding here doesn't change that. At least, if I'm there, I'm not sitting uselessly by the pool while my fate gets decided in a conversation I'm not part of. The silence stretched between them, wills clashing invisibly as Vincent assessed her determination against his protective instincts. Finally, he turned to Marcus with a slight shake of his head. Increase security to 3 personnel. Sophia stays in an adjacent room with Alexandra and feeds observations through comms. She doesn't enter the meeting room under any circumstances unless I explicitly call for her. It wasn't what Sophia had asked for, but it was more than she'd expected. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Vincent warned. If tonight goes wrong, you'll wish you'd stayed by the pool. The hours until the evening meeting crawled past with agonizing slowness. Sophia spent the afternoon reviewing renewable energy proposals in Vincent's home office, a space that smelled like leather and expensive paper, with windows overlooking the pool where Emma splashed happily under Rosa's patient supervision. The technical specifications were actually impressive, Sophia admitted grudgingly as she worked through calculations and feasibility studies. Vincent's finance team had identified genuinely promising opportunities in solar installation and battery storage, projects that could be both profitable and beneficial for Vegas's increasingly strained power grid. She lost herself in the work, her engineering mind finding comfort in problems with mathematical solutions rather than the messy human variables of her current situation. When Vincent appeared in the doorway at 5 o'clock, Sophia had filled 3 pages with notes and recommendations. You actually understand this? Vincent observed, reading over her shoulder at the analysis she'd prepared. Most of my people just regurgitate what contractors tell them without questioning the underlying assumptions. Most of your people probably didn't spend 4 years learning thermodynamics and material science, Sophia replied, setting down her pencil. Your battery storage proposal has a fatal flaw in the thermal management system that will reduce efficiency by at least 30% in summer heat. But the solar installation plan is solid if you adjust the panel placement angles for seasonal variation. Vincent's attention sharpened, his business mind engaging with her assessment. How much would fixing the battery issue cost? Less than the lost efficiency over the system's lifetime, Sophia calculated quickly. Maybe 15% increase in upfront costs, but you'd recoup that within 3 years through better performance. It's a no-brainer from an engineering perspective. And yet my $500 an hour consultants missed it completely, Vincent said, something like frustration edging his tone. Either they're incompetent, or they're profiting from recommending inferior systems. Follow the money, Sophia suggested with a slight shrug. If they have relationships with specific contractors who can't deliver proper thermal management, they're incentivized to overlook the problem rather than recommend better solutions. Vincent studied her with renewed intensity, his expression calculating in ways that made Sophia's pulse quicken. You're wasted as a waitress, he stated bluntly. Even after this situation resolves, I want you to consider working for me legitimately. My renewable energy division needs someone who actually understands the engineering rather than just the profit margins. The offer hung in the air between them, opportunity and complication tangled together impossibly. Working for Vincent Moretti, even in a legitimate capacity, would tie Sophia to his world in ways that might prove impossible to escape later. Let's get through tonight first, she deflected, not ready to consider that particular future when the present remained so uncertain. The Venetian was a study in manufactured opulence, recreating Venice's grandeur in the Nevada desert with painted skies and canal waterways that had never known actual Italian soil. Sophia sat in a private room adjacent to where Vincent would meet Leonardo Calabresi, her hands clenched in her lap as Alexandra helped fit her with a nearly invisible earpiece. You'll hear everything they say, Alexandra explained, her voice professionally calm despite the obvious danger of the situation. If you recognize anyone or notice anything significant, press the button on your phone and it will alert Mr. Moretti through his earpiece. But under no circumstances do you leave this room unless he calls for you directly. Understood? Sophia nodded, her mouth too dry for words. Through the one-way glass panel cunningly disguised as decorative mirror work, she could see the meeting room being prepared. A round table with 6 chairs, expensive scotch, and water glasses arranged precisely. The setting simultaneously elegant and ominous. Vincent entered first, flanked by Marcus and another security member Sophia recognized from the house. He'd dressed for the occasion in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her semester's tuition, his appearance projecting controlled power and absolute confidence. He took the seat facing the door, always aware of exits, always positioning himself advantageously. Leonardo Calabresi arrived exactly on time, and Sophia's breath caught. He was younger than she'd expected, perhaps 50, with silver hair and a cruel handsomeness that reminded her of a shark. Beautiful, until you remembered what it ate. The 2 men with him were obvious muscle, thick-necked and watchful, their suits straining across shoulders built for violence. "Vincent," Leonardo greeted, his voice carrying through Sophia's earpiece with false warmth. "I appreciate you agreeing to this conversation." "You tried to bomb me in my own restaurant," Vincent replied, his tone flat and utterly cold. "The only reason we're having a conversation at all instead of you receiving pieces of your organization in small boxes is because I'm curious about your reasoning." The bluntness of the threat made Sophia flinch, but Leonardo merely smiled, taking the seat across from Vincent with practiced ease. "Business is business. You've been expanding into territories that my family has invested heavily in developing. The construction contracts, the casino partnerships. You're cutting into profits that should rightfully be ours." "Should rightfully be yours based on what precedent?" Vincent countered. "The Calabresi family has been in Vegas for 15 years. The Moretti family has been here for 40. Your claim to territory is based on ambition, not legitimate historical control." Sophia watched the verbal sparring through the glass, noting the micro-expressions neither man fully controlled. Leonardo's jaw tightened when Vincent cited family history. Vincent's fingers drummed once against the table when Leonardo mentioned casino partnerships, a tell that suggested particular sensitivity to that topic. "Perhaps we can discuss a more equitable arrangement," Leonardo suggested, his tone shifting toward negotiation. "Territorial boundaries that acknowledge both families' interests, profit-sharing agreements on contested contracts. There's enough money in this city for both of us to prosper." "There was," Vincent agreed, "until you planted a bomb that would have killed me and a dozen innocent civilians. You don't get to negotiate from a position of power after attempted murder, Leonardo. You negotiate from a position of desperation, hoping I'm merciful enough to let you survive your mistake." The temperature in the room seemed to drop despite the distance and glass separating Sophia from the confrontation. Leonardo's mask of civility cracked slightly, showing the violent man beneath the expensive suit. "The girl," Leonardo said suddenly, shifting tactics. "The waitress who warned you. She's seen too much, knows too much. Give her to me, and we can reach an accommodation on everything else." Sophia's blood turned to ice. "Give her to me." The casual words belied the death sentence they represented. Vincent's expression didn't change, but Sophia saw his hands flatten against the table, tension controlled but visible to those who knew to look for it. "The girl saved my life," he said quietly, his voice more dangerous for its restraint. "Which means she's under my protection absolutely. You're welcome to try taking her, Leonardo, but that particular attempt will be the last thing you do." "She can identify Marco," Leonardo pressed, apparently unaware of how close he was to triggering violence in what was supposed to be a peace negotiation. "She saw him plant the device, saw his face clearly enough to describe him to law enforcement if she chooses. That makes her a threat to both of us, not just my organization. She's a threat to you because you were sloppy, Vincent corrected coldly. Your man was memorable, your operation lacked subtlety, and your target was surrounded by witnesses. Those are your failures, not her crimes. She's guilty only of being observant and having a conscience, neither of which warrant a death sentence. Sophia pressed the button on her phone, alerting Vincent to her presence, to her attention. Through the earpiece, she heard his nearly inaudible acknowledgement, a slight shift in breathing that told her he registered her signal. I'm prepared to offer significant compensation. Leonardo tried again, his desperation beginning to show through his negotiator's mask. $500,000, delivered however you want, clean and untraceable. Just give me the girl. The amount made Sophia's head spin, more money than she'd earn in a decade of engineering work, offered casually for her life, but Vincent's response was immediate and absolute. No amount of money buys Sophia Reyes, he stated flatly. She's not for sale, not for negotiation, not under any circumstances you could possibly propose. If you came here tonight thinking she was something you could purchase, Leonardo, then you've fundamentally misunderstood both her value and my priorities. Sophia felt something crack in her chest. Not fear now, but something uncomfortably close to gratitude, to trust, to emotions that had no place in a transaction between criminal and protected witness. Vincent wasn't just refusing Leonardo's offer. He was establishing her status as something beyond commodity, beyond bargaining chip. Leonardo's expression hardened, the pretense of negotiation finally abandoned. Then we have nothing more to discuss, he said, standing abruptly. You've chosen the girl over peace between our families. I hope she's worth the war that's coming. She's worth considerably more than peace with a family led by a man stupid enough to bomb public restaurants, Vincent replied, remaining seated in a deliberate show of confidence. You have 48 hours to leave Las Vegas, Leonardo. Take whatever operation you can pack in that time and relocate. California, Arizona, Colorado. I don't care where you go as long as it's far from Nevada. After 48 hours, any Calabrese presence in this state becomes a target my organization eliminates with extreme prejudice. The ultimatum hung in the air, absolutely clear despite its civilized delivery. Leonardo's face darkened with rage, his security personnel shifting forward instinctively before his sharp gesture stopped them. You're declaring war over a waitress, Leonardo said incredulously, though beneath the disbelief Sophia heard fear. Vincent Moretti's reputation clearly preceded him, and the willingness to escalate this dramatically over a single witness demonstrated either insanity or overwhelming power. I'm declaring war over principle, Vincent corrected, the principle that people under my protection stay protected, regardless of convenience or cost. You tried to kill me, you failed, and now you face consequences. The girl is just the line you're too stupid to recognize you've already crossed. Leonardo departed with his security in tow, leaving Vincent alone at the table with Marcus and the other guard. Through the glass, Sophia watched Vincent remain motionless for 30 seconds, the stillness of a predator after violence, before finally standing and buttoning his suit jacket with precise movements. He appeared in Sophia's adjoining room moments later, his gray eyes finding hers immediately. You heard. All of it, Sophia confirmed, her voice steadier than she felt. He offered you $500,000 for me. He offered me $500,000 to betray my word, Vincent corrected, moving closer until Sophia had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. Money is infinite, Sophia. Honor is not. You saved my life, which means your life is mine to protect. That's not negotiable regardless of how many zeros Leonardo adds to his offer. The possessive phrasing should have alarmed Sophia, but instead, she felt only relief. In Vincent's world, being his to protect meant absolute safety, unconditional commitment to her survival. You just declared war on an entire crime family, Sophia said, needing him to understand what he'd sacrificed. Over me, over someone you barely know. Vincent's hand rose to cup her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone in a gesture that felt both protective and proprietary. I know you saved my life when you could have looked away. I know you're brilliant enough to identify flaws in engineering proposals my expensive consultants missed. I know you're raising a daughter alone while putting yourself through school. That's enough to know you're worth protecting, Sophia. The rest I'll learn as we go. The "as we go" implied a future Sophia hadn't fully considered. Time extending beyond the immediate crisis, relationships deepening past transaction into something more complicated and potentially dangerous. 48 hours, she said instead, focusing on the timeline Vincent had given Leonardo. That's not very long to pack up an entire criminal operation. It's not meant to be, Vincent replied, his hand dropping from her face though he remained close enough that Sophia could feel his body heat. Leonardo will scramble, make mistakes, reveal connections and resources he'd normally keep hidden. My people will be watching everything he does, cataloging his whole network so that when we dismantle it, we know exactly where to strike. The cold calculation in his voice reminded Sophia that despite his gentleness with Emma and his protective instincts toward her, Vincent Moretti was fundamentally a predator. Beautiful, controlled, and absolutely lethal when circumstances demanded. What if he doesn't leave? Sophia asked. What if he calls your bluff? Vincent's smile held no warmth. It's not a bluff, Sophia. And if Leonardo is stupid enough to stay, you'll learn exactly how thoroughly I protect what's mine. The drive back to Vincent's estate was quiet. Sophia lost in thought while Las Vegas blurred past the SUV's tinted windows. She'd witnessed Vincent Moretti declare war on a rival crime family, had heard herself described as valuable enough to die for, had felt his hand on her face with a gentleness that contradicted everything he represented. Emma was already asleep when they arrived, Rosa reporting that she'd had a wonderful day swimming and watching movies in the home theater, completely oblivious to her mother's proximity to violence and negotiation. Sophia stood in the doorway of Emma's room, watching her daughter sleep with Mr. Hopscotch tucked under her chin, and felt the full weight of what she'd dragged them both into. She's safe here, Vincent said quietly from behind her, his presence somehow comforting despite the danger it represented. Whatever happens with Leonardo, whatever war needs to be waged, Emma will never be touched. You have my word. Sophia turned to face him, finding Vincent closer than she'd expected in the hallway's dim lighting. Your word means people die, she observed, not accusatorily but as simple acknowledgement of reality. Sometimes, Vincent agreed without apology. But it also means people live, people who might otherwise be casualties of someone else's violence. You and Emma are alive tonight because of my word, Sophia. Don't discount the value of that protection, just because the cost falls on people who tried to kill me first. The logic was sound in its own twisted way, and Sophia was too exhausted to untangle the moral complexities of being protected by a man whose protection methods included threatened warfare. I should sleep, she said, needing distance from Vincent's intensity and her own confusing reactions to it. Sophia, Vincent called as she started toward her own room. She paused, looking back to find him silhouetted against the hallway's soft lighting, handsome and dangerous and impossible to read. You did well tonight, he said, staying calm, monitoring the situation, pressing the alert when Leonardo revealed his desperation. That kind of composure under pressure is rare. I was terrified the entire time, Sophia admitted. Courage isn't the absence of fear, Vincent replied. It's functioning despite terror. You have more of that than you realize. Sleep came slowly despite Sophia's exhaustion, her mind replaying the meeting's details and Vincent's absolute refusal to surrender her to Leonardo's offer. She'd become valuable to Vincent Moretti, not just as the woman who'd saved his life, but as something more complex and potentially dangerous. She was under his protection, in his home, consulting on his business interests, and watching him parent her daughter with unexpected gentleness. The boundaries between captor and protector, between transaction and relationship, were blurring in ways Sophia couldn't quite name, but instinctively recognized as profoundly significant. Outside, Vincent's security personnel patrolled the perimeter while Las Vegas glowed in the distance, and somewhere in that neon sprawl, Leonardo Calabrese made desperate plans that would determine whether Sophia's future held peace or escalating violence. 48 hours, Vincent had given him. The clock was already ticking. The 48 hours passed like a held breath. Slow and suffocating despite the illusion of normalcy Vincent maintained for Emma's sake. Sophia watched her daughter adapt to their temporary home with the resilience of childhood, making friends with Rosa, mastering the pool's diving board, and declaring Vincent's home theater superior to any movie experience she'd ever had. Meanwhile, Sophia monitored the invisible war unfolding through fragments of conversation she wasn't supposed to overhear. Marcus reporting on Calabrese movements, Vincent on encrypted calls discussing asset relocation and containment protocols. The clinical language barely disguised the wasa-e violence simmering beneath. On the morning of the third day, Sophia found Vincent in his office before dawn, still dressed in yesterday's clothes, exhaustion visible in the tight set of his shoulders despite his usual controlled posture. Empty espresso cups littered his desk alongside maps of Las Vegas marked with notations she couldn't decipher. "You didn't sleep," Sophia observed from the doorway, her own rest having been fitful and shallow. Vincent looked up, his gray eyes bloodshot but still sharp. "Leonardo didn't leave," he said simply. "He's consolidating his position instead, calling in reinforcements from his California operations, fortifying his properties throughout the city. He's choosing war." The words settled over Sophia like ice water. War. Not a metaphor, not hyperbole, but actual violent conflict that would spill blood across Las Vegas until one side capitulated or was destroyed. "Because of me," Sophia said, the guilt a physical weight in her chest. "Because you wouldn't give me up." Vincent stood, moving around the desk with deliberate purpose until he stood close enough that Sophia had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. "Because Leonardo is a fool who mistakes mercy for weakness," he corrected firmly. "I gave him an exit that would have preserved his dignity and most of his operations. He chose escalation instead. That's on him, not you." "People are going to die," Sophia whispered, thinking of the violence she'd witnessed even peripherally. The bomber in Luminara's wine cellar, the casual mention of bodies in boxes. "People were always going to die," Vincent replied with brutal honesty. "The Calabrese expansion into my territories was unsustainable. This confrontation was inevitable. You just accelerated the timeline and gave me moral justification for what would have happened eventually anyway." The pragmatism should have horrified Sophia, but she'd spent enough time in Vincent's world now to recognize the truth beneath his words. The underworld operated by different rules, and peace was often just the pause between conflicts rather than any genuine resolution. "What happens now?" she asked. Vincent's expression hardened, the exhaustion vanishing behind cold determination. "Now I dismantle Leonardo's operation piece by piece until he has no choice but to leave or die trying to stay. My people are already moving. His money laundering fronts, his protection rackets, his supply chains. By tonight, the Calabrese family will be bleeding from a dozen wounds." "And me?" Sophia pressed. "Emma? Do we just hide here while you wage war?" "You stay safe," Vincent stated absolutely. "That's non-negotiable, Sophia. Leonardo knows where you are by now. My estate's location isn't exactly secret. But he also knows that attacking you here would require going through security measures that would destroy his remaining forces. You're safer in my home than anywhere else in Nevada. A commotion from the hallway interrupted them. Raised voices and rapid footsteps that sent Vincent's hand instinctively toward the gun Sophia knew he kept in his desk drawer. Marcus appeared in the doorway, his expression grim. "We have a problem," he reported. "Leonardo took Emma's babysitter hostage an hour ago, Mrs. Chen. He's demanding a trade, the woman for Sophia, meeting at neutral ground within the next 3 hours." Sophia's world tilted sickeningly. Mrs. Chen, sweet. Grandmother Mrs. Chen, who'd watched Emma since she was 3 years old, who made the best dumplings and told stories about growing up in Shanghai. Captured because of Sophia's connection to her. Tortured or killed to force Sophia's surrender. "No," Vincent said immediately, his tone absolute. "We don't negotiate with hostage takers, and we definitely don't trade Sophia for anyone." "She's 70 years old," Sophia said, her voice cracking. "She has nothing to do with this. Leonardo took her just to hurt me, to force me out of hiding." "Which is exactly why we can't give him what he wants," Vincent replied, though something like sympathy softened his features. "If we trade you for Mrs. Chen, he kills you both. Hostage exchanges never end with the hostage taker keeping his word, Sophia. That's not how these situations work." "So we just let her die?" Sophia demanded, anger flaring through her fear. "An innocent woman who was only involved because I asked her to watch my daughter?" "We get her back," Vincent corrected firmly. "But we do it my way, with tactical precision and overwhelming force. Leonardo chose this escalation, and he's about to learn why that was a fatal mistake. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one." The next 3 hours were a masterclass in organized violence. Sophia watched from Vincent's office as his organization mobilized with military efficiency. Surveillance teams tracking Mrs. Chen's location, tactical units preparing for extraction, intelligence operatives gathering real-time data on Calabrese movements throughout the city. Vincent orchestrated everything from his desk, his exhaustion vanishing beneath the focused intensity of a commander at war. He issued orders in calm, clipped tones, adjusted strategies based on incoming information, and made decisions about life and death with the same precision Sophia applied to engineering calculations. "Mrs. Chen is being held at a Calabrese warehouse near the airport," Marcus reported, studying surveillance footage on his tablet. 4 guards visible, possibly more inside. Leonardo himself isn't present. He's directing operations from his casino office, using the hostage situation as a distraction while he moves assets. "Smart," Vincent acknowledged grudgingly. "He knows we're coming for Mrs. Chen, so he's using our attention on her to mask other movements." "What's he really doing?" Marcus pulled up, additional feeds showing Calabrese personnel throughout Las Vegas. "Liquidating, converting assets to cash, preparing to run despite his public declarations about staying. The hostage situation is cover for retreat." Vincent's smile was cold and satisfied. "Then we let him think it's working. Extract Mrs. Chen quietly while Leonardo focuses on his escape preparations. Once she's safe, we lock down the city. Airports, highways, private airstrips. Leonardo doesn't leave Las Vegas alive." The finality in his voice made Sophia shiver. This was Vincent Moretti at his most dangerous, not the gentle man who'd shown patience with Emma or the protective presence who'd touched Sophia's face with unexpected tenderness, but the Mafia boss who'd built an empire on calculated violence and absolute control. "I want to be there," Sophia said suddenly, the decision crystallizing as she watched Vincent prepare to risk his people for her babysitter. "When you extract Mrs. Chen, I want to be part of the operation." Both Vincent and Marcus turned to stare at her, identical expressions of disbelief crossing their features. Absolutely not, Vincent said flatly. You're not trained. You're the primary target, and your presence would complicate an already dangerous extraction. Mrs. Chen knows me, Sophia countered, her engineering mind applying logical problem-solving to tactical situations. If armed strangers burst in to rescue her, she might panic, fight back, create complications. But if she sees me, hears my voice, she'll understand immediately that she's being saved rather than moved to a different danger. Vincent opened his mouth to argue, then paused, his strategic mind clearly processing Sophia's logic. You stay in the vehicle, he finally agreed, though his tone suggested he hated every word. Armored SUV, 2 armed guards, positioned 3 blocks from the extraction point. If Mrs. Chen panics during the rescue, we bring her to you for visual confirmation. But you do not enter that warehouse under any circumstances. Clear? Clear, Sophia agreed, relief and terror warring in her chest. The warehouse district near McCarran Airport was a study in industrial decay. Corrugated metal buildings, chain-link fences, and sodium lights casting sickly orange glows across cracked pavement. Sophia sat in the back seat of Vincent's armored SUV, flanked by Alexandra and another guard named James, watching the extraction unfold through surveillance feeds on Alexandra's tablet. Vincent had positioned himself with the tactical team, despite Marcus's protests about unnecessary risk. Leonardo took someone under my protection, Vincent had stated simply. That requires my personal response. Now Sophia watched him move through the warehouse approach with the same controlled precision he applied to everything, hand signals coordinating his team, weapon held with practiced competency, every movement economical and purposeful. The guards outside the warehouse never saw Vincent's, "Aha, team coming." Suppressed weapons coughed quietly in the night, bodies dropping with barely a sound as Vincent's people neutralized threats with professional efficiency. Sophia's stomach churned watching violence unfold in real time, but she forced herself not to look away. This was the cost of her protection, the price Vincent paid to keep his word. Inside the warehouse, Mrs. Chen sat tied to a chair under harsh fluorescent lighting, her face bruised, but her eyes defiant despite obvious fear. Sophia's heart clenched, seeing the elderly woman who'd been nothing but kind to her and Emma suffering because of their connection. "Federal agents!" Vincent shouted, the lie establishing confusion as his team swept into the space. "On the ground now!" The Calabrese guards inside hesitated for a fatal moment, uncertain whether this was legitimate law enforcement or rival criminals. That hesitation cost them everything as Vincent's team moved with lethal precision, overwhelming the warehouse's defenders before they could properly respond. Within 90 seconds, Mrs. Chen was freed from her restraints and being guided toward the exit by 2 of Vincent's people. But Sophia could see the panic in her expression through the surveillance feed, confusion and terror as armed strangers hustled her away from one set of captors toward an unknown fate. "She's fighting them," Alexandra observed, watching Mrs. Chen struggle against her rescuers despite their attempts to calm her. "She doesn't understand she's being saved." "Bring her to me," Sophia said immediately, already reaching for the SUV's door handle before James's hand stopped her. "Mr. Moretti specified you stay in the vehicle," he reminded her firmly. "Mrs. Chen is going to hurt herself or someone else if she doesn't understand what's happening," Sophia argued. "I'm not entering the warehouse. I'm just standing outside the vehicle where she can see me. That was the whole point of me being here." Alexandra exchanged a look with James before nodding reluctantly. "Stay between us. Don't move more than 3 feet from the vehicle, and if anything goes wrong, you get back inside immediately." Sophia emerged into the desert night, the air still warm despite the late hour, carrying the scent of aviation fuel and industrial chemicals from the nearby airport. In the distance, she could see Vincent's team approaching with Mrs. Chen between them, the elderly woman still struggling until her eyes landed on Sophia. "Sophia!" Mrs. Chen's voice cracked with relief and confusion. What's happening? Who are these people? They're with me, Sophia called back, keeping her voice steady despite her racing heart. They're here to help you, Mrs. Chen. You're safe now, I promise. The transformation was immediate. Mrs. Chen stopped fighting, allowing Vincent's team to guide her toward the SUV where Sophia waited. The elderly woman's face was bruised and tear-streaked, but her eyes cleared with understanding as she registered Sophia's presence. Emma? Mrs. Chen asked urgently as she reached Sophia. Is Emma safe? She's completely safe, Sophia assured her, helping Mrs. Chen into the SUV. She's been with me the whole time. You were taken because of me, because I involved myself in something dangerous. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Chen. The elderly woman's hand found Sophia's, squeezing with surprising strength. You saved someone, she said with the quiet certainty of someone who'd survived enough to recognize the shape of moral complexity. I can tell. You saved someone important, and bad people wanted to punish you for it. That's not your fault, Sophia. That's just evil being evil. The simple absolution nearly broke Sophia's composure, but movement near the warehouse entrance refocused her attention. Vincent emerged with his team, his expression grim as he approached the SUV. We need to move, he said urgently. Leonardo knows the extraction succeeded. His people are mobilizing throughout the city. This location is compromised. What followed was a high-speed chase through Las Vegas streets that would have been thrilling in a movie, but was merely terrifying in reality. Calabrese vehicles pursued Vincent's convoy, weapons appearing from windows as professional drivers maneuvered through traffic with reckless precision. Get down, Alexandra shouted, pushing Sophia and Mrs. Chen to the SUV's floor as bullets impacted the armored plating with sounds like violent hail. Sophia covered Mrs. Chen's body with her own, feeling the elderly woman's rapid heartbeat and shallow breathing as the vehicle swerved and accelerated. Through the windows, she caught flashes of Las Vegas, the strip's neon glory contrasting surreally with the violence unfolding in its shadow. Vincent's voice came through the driver's communication system, steady despite the chaos. 2 blocks to the casino. Security is ready, just get them inside. The Oasis, one of Vincent's legitimate casino holdings, appeared like a fortress, its entrance flanked by security personnel who created a protective corridor as the SUV screeched to a halt. Sophia and Mrs. Chen were hustled inside, through crowds of oblivious tourists and gamblers, into a private elevator that climbed toward secured floors above the casino proper. The elevator doors opened to reveal a penthouse suite that rivaled Vincent's estate in luxury. Rosa waited inside, her expression relieved as she saw Sophia, and immediately concerned when she registered Mrs. Chen's condition. I'll prepare tea and medical supplies, Rosa said, already moving toward the suite's kitchen. And I'll call the doctor. He's discreet and excellent with trauma. Sophia helped Mrs. Chen to a sofa, noting how the elderly woman trembled now that immediate danger had passed. Shock settling in, delayed reaction to hours of terror. Emma is here? Mrs. Chen asked, her voice small and uncertain in the luxurious space. She's with Vincent's housekeeper at his estate, Sophia explained. Completely safe, completely unaware that anything bad happened. She thinks we're on a fun vacation while our apartment gets repaired. Mrs. Chen's eyes filled with tears. I'm too old for this kind of excitement, she said with a watery laugh. When I agreed to watch Emma, I thought the biggest danger would be bedtime negotiations, not mobsters and warehouses. I know, Sophia said, guilt crushing her chest. I never meant for you to be involved. If I'd known, you would have done the same thing. Mrs. Chen interrupted gently. Because that's who you are, Sophia. You see someone in danger, and you help. That's not a weakness, even when it costs you. Vincent appeared in the penthouse entrance, Marcus at his side, both men showing signs of recent combat, clothing disheveled, expressions hard with adrenaline. but Vincent's eyes softened when they landed on Sophia, relief visible before being locked behind his usual mask. "Mrs. Chen," Vincent said, approaching the elderly woman with unexpected gentleness. "I'm Vincent Moretti. I apologize that my conflict with Leonardo Calabrese resulted in your suffering. That was never my intention, and I take full responsibility for the danger you were placed in." Mrs. Chen studied him with the shrewd assessment of someone who'd lived long enough to recognize different flavors of danger. "You're the one Sophia saved," she observed, not a question, but a statement of recognized fact. "At the restaurant. And now you're protecting her from the people who are angry about that." "Yes," Vincent confirmed simply, respecting her enough to skip euphemisms and comfortable lies. "Then I suppose I owe you thanks," Mrs. Chen said with quiet dignity. "Sophia's a good girl. The best. She deserves protecting. Her, and that sweet daughter of hers. You do right by them, Mr. Moretti, and we'll have no problems." The gentle threat from a 70-year-old woman who'd just been rescued from a warehouse should have been absurd, but Vincent's expression showed only respect. "You have my word," he replied seriously. "Sophia and Emma are under my absolute protection. No one touches them while I'm alive." A knock at the penthouse door announced the arrival of Vincent's doctor, an older gentleman with steady hands and a professional discretion that suggested he'd treated similar patients before. He examined Mrs. Chen with gentle efficiency, declaring her bruised but otherwise uninjured, prescribing rest and monitoring for shock symptoms. "I want to see Emma," Mrs. Chen said once the doctor had departed. "I need to see for myself that she's all right." "Of course," Vincent agreed immediately. "We'll arrange transport back to the estate once we're certain the immediate pursuit has been neutralized. Another hour, 2 at most." But the hour never came. Instead, Marcus burst into the penthouse with his phone pressed to his ear, his expression carrying news that made Vincent's whole body tense. "Leonardo's made his move," Marcus reported grimly. "He's not running. He's attacking. Simultaneous strikes on 3 of your properties across the city, including attempts on your casino managers and key personnel. This isn't retreat, Vincent. This is scorched earth." Vincent's expression transformed, cold fury replacing any remaining warmth. "He's trying to destroy everything before I can take it from him," he said, his voice deadly quiet. "Burn it all down rather than surrender territory." "What do we do?" Marcus asked, awaiting orders from his commander. Vincent was silent for 3 heartbeats, his strategic mind clearly calculating options and consequences. When he spoke, his voice carried absolute certainty. "We end this tonight. Mobilize every asset. I want Leonardo Calabrese found and eliminated within the next 6 hours. No more warnings, no more negotiations. He chose war, and wars end when one side can no longer fight." Sophia felt ice spread through her veins. This was it. The culmination of everything that had started when she'd written one word on a check. The invisible violence she'd sensed beneath Vincent's civilized exterior was about to manifest completely, and she was the catalyst for everything that would follow. "I need to be part of this," Sophia said, surprising herself with the words even as they left her mouth. Vincent's head snapped toward her, disbelief written across his features. "You're not a soldier, Sophia. You're an engineer with a daughter who needs her mother alive." "I'm the reason Leonardo is doing this," Sophia countered. "I'm the reason you're at war. The reason your people are dying tonight. If there's going to be a final confrontation, I need to be there. I need to see this through to the end." "Absolutely not," Vincent stated flatly. "You're staying here with Mrs. Chen and Rosa, under guard, until this situation is resolved." Sophia stood, needing the physical assertion of agency even though Vincent towered over her. "You told Leonardo that I was under your protection, that my life had value beyond transaction. But protection isn't the same as imprisonment, Vincent. You don't get to lock me away and make decisions about my life without my input. The challenge hung between them, Sophia's need for autonomy clashing with Vincent's protective instincts. Around them, the penthouse felt too small for the magnitude of their standoff. If something happens to you, Vincent said quietly, his voice rough with emotion he rarely showed. Emma loses her mother. Mrs. Chen loses someone she clearly loves. And I. He stopped, jaw tightening as he fought for control. I don't protect things halfway, Sophia. Either you're mine to protect completely, or I've failed at the only promise that matters. The possessive phrasing should have angered Sophia, but instead she recognized the vulnerability beneath his words. Vincent Moretti, cold, calculating, dangerous Vincent Moretti, was terrified of failing her, of letting her die after everything he'd sacrificed to keep her safe. Then let me help you succeed, Sophia said, softer now, understanding the fear driving his refusal. I'm not asking to be on the front lines, but I have skills: observation, pattern recognition, strategic analysis. Let me monitor operations remotely, provide intelligence support. Let me be useful instead of helpless. Vincent studied her for a long moment, his gray eyes searching her face as if memorizing every detail. Finally, he nodded slowly, decision made despite obvious reluctance. Operations Center only, he stipulated. You monitor surveillance feeds and communications, flag anything unusual, provide analysis when requested. But you stay in the secured command center with armed guards, and if I give the order to evacuate, you follow it immediately. Those are non-negotiable terms. Agreed, Sophia said, relief and terror mixing in her chest. The operations center occupied a subterranean level beneath Vincent's casino, accessible only through biometric security and monitored by guards who looked more military than civilian. Sophia descended into organized chaos, banks of monitors displaying surveillance feeds throughout Las Vegas, communication specialists coordinating Vincent's forces, tactical displays mapping personnel movements in real time. It looked like a war room because that's exactly what it was. Marcus positioned Sophia at a workstation with multiple screens, quickly explaining the interface and communication protocols. Green markers are our people, red markers are confirmed. Calabrese forces, yellow are unknowns we're still tracking. You're monitoring sectors 3 and 7, commercial district and residential areas where we've had reported activity. Sophia's engineering mind adapted quickly to the systems, recognizing underlying logic in the tactical displays. She tracked green markers converging on red positions, watching Vincent's organization move like a coordinated organism toward common objectives. Vincent stood at the center of the operations room, orchestrating everything with calm authority, despite the scale of violence unfolding across the city. He issued orders, adjusted strategies, directed resources with the precision of someone who'd trained his entire life for exactly this kind of conflict. Sector 3 has unusual movement, Sophia observed, noting patterns on her screens that deviated from expected behavior. 4 vehicles entering from the north, but they're not marked as ours or Calabrese. Different signature than anything we've tracked before. Marcus immediately moved to her workstation, studying what Sophia had flagged. His expression darkened as recognition dawned. Those are Volkov vehicles, he said, already moving toward Vincent. The Russian Bratva? Leonardo called in outside support. Vincent's expression barely changed, but Sophia saw tension ripple through his shoulders. How many? At least a dozen vehicles, probably 30 to 40 personnel, Marcus reported. Professional operators with military-grade equipment. Leonardo's burning every favor he has to stop you. Then we stop him first, Vincent stated with absolute certainty. Redirect teams 2 and 5 to intercept the Volkov convoy. I want them neutralized before they reach any of our facilities. What followed was choreographed violence played out across multiple screens. Vincent's forces engaging with Calabrese and Volkov personnel in firefights that lit up Las Vegas's industrial sectors with muzzle flashes and burning vehicles. Sophia watched numbers shift on tactical displays, green markers going dark when personnel were injured or killed, red markers disappearing as threats were eliminated. People were dying in real time, and Sophia was watching it happen from her comfortable chair in an underground command center. Sector 7 has a problem, another analyst called out. Leonardo himself is moving toward the old Henderson warehouse, the one he's been using as a staging area. He's got heavy security and appears to be preparing for evacuation. Vincent moved to study the relevant displays, his expression calculating. He's running, he observed, finally accepting defeat and trying to escape before we close the net completely. Should we let him go? Marcus asked. If he leaves Las Vegas, the threat to Sophia ends. We could call it a victory and avoid additional casualties. Sophia watched Vincent consider this option, seeing the temptation of easy resolution war with his stated objectives. Leonardo leaving meant Sophia's safety without additional bloodshed. But it also meant Leonardo surviving to potentially threaten her again in the future. No, Vincent decided finally. Leonardo made this personal when he took Mrs. Chen. He needs to understand completely that Sophia is untouchable. That requires permanent resolution, not temporary exile. He turned to his tactical commander, a man named David who'd been coordinating field operations. Assemble the strike team. We're going to Henderson personally. Vincent, that's unnecessary risk, Marcus protested. Let the team handle it. You don't need to be there. Yes, I do, Vincent countered. Leonardo needs to see me when his operation falls apart. Needs to understand who destroyed him and why. This isn't just about elimination, it's about sending a message that survives his death. Sophia stood abruptly, the movement drawing Vincent's attention. If you're going, I'm going too, she stated, her voice carrying across the operations center. The room fell silent, every operator and guard turning to witness this confrontation between their boss and the woman who'd somehow become central to everything. Sophia, Vincent began, warning in his tone. You said I could help, Sophia interrupted. That I could be part of this. I'm not asking to carry a weapon or storm the warehouse, but I need to see this end, Vincent. I need to watch Leonardo understand that he lost, because he underestimated a waitress who noticed patterns. Vincent's jaw clenched, emotions warring visibly across his features before being locked away behind professional control. Fine, he agreed, the word sharp with frustration. But you stay in the vehicle with armed guards. You follow every security protocol exactly, and if the situation deteriorates, you evacuate immediately. No arguments, no negotiations. No arguments, Sophia agreed, her heart pounding as reality settled over her. She was about to witness the final confrontation of a gang war she'd inadvertently started. The drive to Henderson was tense silence, Vincent in the lead SUV with his strike team, while Sophia followed in a second vehicle with Alexandra and 3 other guards. The desert night was cool now. Stars visible beyond Las Vegas's light pollution, indifferent to the human violence unfolding beneath them. The warehouse appeared decrepit from outside. Corrugated metal walls tagged with graffiti, broken windows, chain-link fence sagging with age. But Sophia's trained eye caught the subtle signs of recent activity. Fresh tire tracks, security cameras disguised as weathered equipment, reinforced doors behind the facade of decay. Vincent's team deployed with military precision, spreading around the warehouse perimeter while communications specialists jammed cellular signals to prevent Leonardo from calling for additional support. Sophia watched through her vehicle's windows, heart racing as she recognized the same controlled violence she'd witnessed during Mrs. Chen's extraction. The assault happened with shocking speed. Flashbang grenades shattered windows, disorienting defenders before Vincent's team swept inside with overwhelming force. Gunfire echoed across the industrial area, sharp cracks and sustained bursts that made Sophia flinch despite the vehicle's armor. Through her earpiece, Sophia heard the tactical chatter. First floor secured. Moving to second level. Contact, returning fire. Target acquired. Second floor office. Vincent's voice cut through the chaos, calm and absolute. I want Leonardo alive. Wound if necessary. But I need him conscious. The next minutes stretched eternally. Sophia's engineering mind cataloging sounds and trying to construct a mental map of the situation from audio cues alone. She felt utterly useless sitting in the vehicle while Vincent and his people fought to end the threat she'd created. Finally, movement at the warehouse entrance. Vincent emerged, his suit jacket discarded and shirt streaked with dust and what might have been blood. Behind him, two of his team dragged Leonardo Calabrese, alive but barely, blood streaming from a shoulder wound, his face pale with shock and pain. They brought him to Sophia's vehicle, Vincent opening the door himself so Leonardo could see exactly who sat in the back seat. Look at her, Vincent commanded, his voice cold as winter. This is Sophia Reyes, the waitress you tried to kill, the woman you took a hostage to capture. Look at her face and understand that she's the reason you lost everything tonight. Leonardo's eyes found Sophia's, hatred and disbelief mixing in his expression as he struggled against the hands restraining him. Over a fucking waitress! He spat, blood flecking his lips. You destroyed my family over someone who serves drinks. I destroyed your family because you were too stupid to recognize when you'd lost, Vincent corrected coldly. You had every chance to walk away. Instead, you escalated. You took hostages. You brought in the Volkov Bratva. You turned a simple territorial dispute into a war you couldn't win. He crouched to Leonardo's level, his next words quiet but carrying absolute finality. Sophia Reyes isn't just someone who serves drinks. She's someone who saw danger and chose to help when she could have looked away. That makes her worth more than your entire operation ever was, and now you'll die knowing that your arrogance and pride cost you everything. Wait, Sophia said, surprising herself as the word escaped. All eyes turned to her. Vincent's questioning, Leonardo's desperate, the guards carefully neutral. Sophia stepped out of the vehicle, ignoring Alexandra's protest, until she stood facing Leonardo directly. The man who'd ordered her death, who'd terrorized Mrs. Chen, who'd sent Sophia's life spiraling into chaos. You could have let it go, Sophia said quietly. Vincent gave you an out. Leave Las Vegas, keep most of your operation, start over somewhere else. But you couldn't accept that a simple warning from a waitress had beaten your professional hit. Your ego couldn't survive it. Leonardo's expression twisted with rage and impotent fury as he struggled against his restraints. You think you've won? He snarled. You think this ends with me? There will be others. There will always be someone who sees you as a vulnerability in Vincent's armor. Then they'll learn the same lesson you did, Sophia replied, steadier than she felt. That I'm not a vulnerability. I'm someone worth protecting. And Vincent Moretti keeps his promises. She turned to Vincent, seeing something like pride mixed with concern in his gray eyes. I'm ready to go home now, she said simply. Vincent nodded to his team, who began dragging Leonardo back toward the warehouse. Sophia didn't ask what would happen to him. She didn't need to. Some questions were better left unanswered, some violence better left unwitnessed. The drive back to Vincent's estate felt different than any journey Sophia had made in the past week. The immediate danger had ended, Leonardo's threat permanently neutralized, his organization dismantled. Sophia could return to her life, or whatever version of her life remained after everything that had changed. Emma was still awake when they arrived, despite the late hour, curled up on Rose's lap in the living room watching a Disney movie. She launched herself at Sophia with 7-year-old enthusiasm, apparently unconcerned by her mother's extended absence. Mama, Rosa said you had to help Mr. Vincent with important work. Did you fix his buildings? Are they all better now? Something like that, Sophia agreed, holding her daughter close and breathing in the familiar strawberry scent of her shampoo. Everything's fixed now, baby. We can go home soon. Emma pulled back, her expression conflicted. But I like it here, she admitted with a child's honesty. Rosa's nice, and the pool is amazing, and Mr. Vincent lets me watch movies in his special theater. Can't we stay a little longer? Sophia glanced at Vincent, who'd followed them inside and now watched their reunion with an expression that was almost tender. We'll see, Sophia deflected. That's a conversation for tomorrow, after you've gotten some sleep. After Emma was tucked into bed, Sophia found Vincent on the terrace overlooking his property, a glass of amber liquid in his hand as he stared toward Las Vegas's distant glow. The night was quiet except for cicadas and the whisper of the desert breeze through carefully maintained landscaping. It's over, Sophia said, joining him at the railing. Not a question, but confirmation. It's over, Vincent agreed. Leonardo won't threaten anyone again, and the Calabrese organization is being absorbed by my people as we speak. You're safe, Sophia. You and Emma can return to your normal lives if that's what you want. The "if that's what you want" hung between them, pregnant with implications and unspoken possibilities. Sophia studied Vincent's profile in the dim lighting, seeing exhaustion and something else. Something that looked almost like loneliness. What if normal isn't what I want anymore? Sophia asked quietly. Vincent turned to face her fully, his gray eyes searching hers with that intensity that always made her feel transparent. What do you want? Sophia considered the question seriously, thinking about her apartment in Henderson with its worn furniture and perpetual struggle to make rent, her waitressing job that had barely paid tuition while destroying her body with long hours, the careful, controlled life she'd built from the ruins of teenage pregnancy and abandonment. Then she thought about the past week. Terrifying but also exhilarating. Working on renewable energy projects that actually interested her. Watching Emma blossom under Rosa's attention, feeling protected and valued in ways she'd never experienced, being seen by Vincent Moretti not as invisible waitstaff, but as someone worth knowing. I want to consult on your renewable energy projects, Sophia said finally. Legitimately, with a proper contract and compensation. I want Emma to keep visiting Rosa and swimming in your pool. I want to finish my degree without worrying that missing a shift will mean we can't pay rent. She paused, gathering courage for the rest. And I want to understand what's happening between us. Whatever this is. Protection. Obligation. Something more complicated. I want to explore it honestly instead of pretending it doesn't exist. Vincent's expression softened. The cold calculation he showed the world melting into something warmer and infinitely more dangerous to Sophia's carefully guarded heart. What's happening between us? He said quietly, setting down his glass so he could cup her face with both hands, is that I'm falling for a woman who sees patterns no one else notices, who risks everything to save strangers, who loves her daughter fiercely enough to survive impossible circumstances. His thumbs brushed her cheekbones with devastating gentleness. You were supposed to be a debt repaid, Sophia. A life saved requiring a life protected. But somewhere between your engineering analysis and Emma's diving board triumphs, and watching you face down Leonardo with more courage than most of my soldiers possess, you became something I didn't expect. What did I become? Sophia whispered. Mine. Vincent replied simply. If you'll have me, with all the complications that entails, all the danger and moral ambiguity and unconventional circumstances. I can't offer you normal, Sophia, but I can offer you protection, partnership, and a future where you never have to choose between your daughter's needs and your own dreams. Sophia should have been cautious. Should have recognized the impossibility of building something real with a man whose world operated by violence and whose protection came with strings she couldn't fully see. But she'd been cautious her entire life, careful, controlled, never taking risks that might destabilize the fragile existence she'd built. Where had caution gotten her? Exhausted and struggling, always one disaster away from losing everything, invisible to everyone except her daughter and her elderly babysitter. Vincent Moretti saw her, valued her, offered her not charity but partnership, not rescue but collaboration. The danger would never fully disappear, but neither would his absolute commitment to her safety. "I'll have you," Sophia said, the words simultaneously surrender and claim, complications and all. Vincent's kiss was inevitability made physical, controlled at first, then deepening with the intensity both of them had been restraining for days. Sophia felt herself melt against him, her careful defenses crumbling under the absolute certainty of his desire and her own reciprocal need. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Vincent rested his forehead against hers with unexpected vulnerability. "I need you to understand something," he said quietly. "What I feel for you, it's not temporary. It's not gratitude or obligation. When I claim something as mine, Sophia, I keep it, protect it, build my entire life around ensuring its safety and happiness." "Is that a warning or a promise?" Sophia asked, though she already knew the answer. "Both," Vincent replied honestly. "I'm giving you a chance to walk away now, before this becomes something neither of us can undo. But if you stay, if you choose this path with me, I'll never let you go." The possessive intensity should have frightened Sophia. Instead, she felt only relief at being claimed so absolutely by someone who understood her value. "I'm not walking away," she said with certainty. "I wrote bomb on your check because I couldn't watch you die. Now I'm choosing to stay because I can't imagine my life without you in it." 3 months later, Sophia stood in Vincent's home office, now officially their office, since she'd moved into the estate with Emma after completing her degree. Her engineering diploma hung on the wall beside a photo of Emma's 8th birthday party, the girl grinning with chocolate cake smeared across her face while Vincent laughed in the background. The renewable energy division had launched successfully. Sophia's technical expertise combined with Vincent's business acumen, creating a legitimately profitable venture that was actually helping Las Vegas transition towards sustainable power. She had a proper salary, benefits, and equity stake in the company. Not charity, but earned compensation for valuable work. Emma thrived under Rosa's grandmotherly attention, her swimming improving dramatically, and her grades excellent thanks to the stability and support their new life provided. She called Vincent Mr. Vincent still, though the formality was undermined by how she'd climb into his lap during movie nights and demand he read her bedtime stories in funny voices. Mrs. Chen visited regularly, having recovered completely from her ordeal and declaring that she'd seen worse during the Cultural Revolution, so a little kidnapping wasn't going to slow her down. She and Rosa had become unlikely friends, bonding over their shared commitment to spoiling Emma and occasionally conspiring to set up dinner parties that felt suspiciously like they were designed to showcase Sophia and Vincent as a proper family. "You're smiling," Vincent observed, entering their office with 2 cups of coffee prepared exactly how Sophia liked it, a small intimacy he'd learned over countless shared mornings. "I'm happy," Sophia replied, accepting the coffee and the kiss he pressed to her temple. "Is that allowed? Am I permitted to be happy while consulting for the Mafia?" "Consulting for a legitimate renewable energy company," Vincent corrected with mock severity. "My other business interests are completely separate from your work." The careful separation was real. Vincent had been absolute about keeping Sophia's professional life distinct from his family business. She knew about his organizations, understood what he did, but never participated directly in anything illegal. It was a line he refused to cross, protection of her conscience as complete as his protection of her physical safety. Emma wants to know if we can get a dog, Sophia mentioned, shifting to domestic concerns that would have seemed absurd 3 months ago. Apparently, all her friends at school have dogs, and Mr. Hopscotch is getting lonely. Vincent's expression suggested he'd already been lobbied on this topic and had probably already ordered whatever breed Emma preferred. A dog would require someone to be home during the day for training and care, he observed carefully. Rosa's already volunteered, Sophia replied, seeing through his negotiation tactic. And you're terrible at saying no to Emma. We both know she's getting a dog. Medium-sized breed, Vincent stipulated, surrendering with good grace. Nothing that will terrorize Rosa's cat or destroy the furniture. And Emma is responsible for feeding and walking duties. I'll tell her, Sophia agreed, then added, thank you. For this. For all of it. For making our life better instead of just different. Vincent set down his coffee to pull Sophia into his arms, the embrace familiar and comforting and thrilling, even after 3 months of similar moments. You made my life better too, he said against her hair. You gave me something worth protecting beyond territory and profit. You gave me family. The word family hung between them, weighted with significance. They hadn't discussed marriage explicitly. Sophia's divorce from Carlos had only finalized recently, and neither of them felt rushed to formalize what already felt permanent. But the intention was clear in how Vincent introduced her to business associates, and how Sophia wore the stunning emerald ring he'd given her on their 1-month anniversary. A knock on the office door interrupted them. Marcus entered with apologetic expression, holding a tablet with incoming information. Sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation developing with the Donovan family. They're requesting a meeting to discuss territorial adjustments in North Vegas. Vincent's expression shifted immediately into business mode, the tender partner vanishing behind the calculated crime boss. Schedule it for next week. Neutral ground. Standard security protocols. After Marcus departed, Sophia studied Vincent with newfound understanding. This was her life now. Beautiful moments of domestic happiness interrupted by reminders of the dangerous world that funded their comfort and safety. She'd made peace with that duality, accepting that Vincent's protection and their prosperity came from sources she'd once have condemned. Do you ever regret it? Vincent asked, apparently reading her thoughts in her expression. Choosing this life? You could have walked away that first night. Could have let me deal with Leonardo while you disappeared into witness protection and started over somewhere safe and conventional. Sophia considered the question honestly, thinking about who she'd been before writing that single word on Vincent's check. Exhausted, struggling, invisible Sophia, who served tables and studied engineering while her dreams slowly shrank to accommodate reality's limitations. I regret nothing, she said with absolute certainty. You asked me what I wanted that night on the terrace. I wanted to be seen, to be valued, to build something meaningful. You've given me all that and more. She pressed a kiss to his jaw, feeling his pulse beneath her lips. I saved your life with 3 letters on a check. You saved mine by showing me what life could be when someone finally noticed me. We're even. Vincent Moretti. His smile was devastating, warm and genuine and reserved only for her and Emma. We're not even, he corrected gently. We're partners. That's infinitely better. That evening, Sophia stood at the window of what had become her bedroom, their bedroom, really, though Vincent maintained the fiction of separate spaces for Emma's sake. Las Vegas glowed in the distance, that same neon river that had witnessed her transformation from invisible waitress to valued partner to woman, building a family with one of the city's most dangerous men. She'd written bomb on a check and changed everything. Now she was writing proposals for renewable energy, reviewing her daughter's homework, planning dinner parties with Rosa and Mrs. Chen, and falling asleep in Vincent Moretti's arms while security personnel patrolled the perimeter and the desert night wrapped around their sanctuary. It wasn't the life she'd imagined. It was infinitely better. Emma appeared in the doorway, already in pajamas, Mr. Hopscotch tucked under her arm. "Mama, Mr. Vincent says he'll read me 3 stories tonight instead of 2 if I brush my teeth extra well. Is that a good deal?" Sophia laughed, her heart full of uncomplicated joy. "That's an excellent deal, baby. Go brush, and I'll come say goodnight in a few minutes." After Emma scampered off, Sophia remained at the window for a moment longer, reflecting on the strange trajectory that had brought her here. A bomb threat, a warning scrawled in desperate capitals, a mafia boss who'd valued her life enough to declare war over her protection, and somehow, impossibly, a future that felt like home. Vincent appeared behind her, his arms encircling her waist as they stood together looking out at their city. "What are you thinking?" he asked, his breath warm against her neck. "That I'd do it again," Sophia replied honestly. "Write that warning. Risk everything. Choose you. Every single time, I'd make the same choice." "Good," Vincent murmured, turning her to face him. "Because I'm never letting you go, Sophia Reyes. You're mine. My partner, my family, my future. And I protect what's mine with everything I am." "I know," Sophia said, rising on her toes to kiss him with all the certainty she felt. "That's why I'm staying." Somewhere in Las Vegas, life continued its usual chaos. Tourists gambling, shows dazzling audiences, the city's machinery grinding forward with indifferent momentum. But in Vincent Moretti's estate, Sophia had found something she'd never expected. Safety, partnership, love, and a future built on the foundation of one desperate warning and 2 people brave enough to face its consequences together. She'd saved his life with 3 letters. He'd given her a life worth living in. Return. Fair trade, Sophia thought, as Emma's laughter drifted from down the hall and Vincent's arms held her close. The best trade she'd ever made. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.